Welcome to the 153rd edition of Spooky Reviews from Spooky Ventures. I'm Gary Hill, and I'm both your host and reviewer. Today we're going to be looking at the Blu-Ray release of the holiday horror film He Knows. Now before I get to this review, I need to reveal some potential bias that I have here. First, I know director Steve Morris personally and consider him a friend. I also know some members of the cast personally. Also, a proof of concept for the sequel to this movie, called She Knows, was filmed a few months ago, and both my wife and I are in that proof of concept. So we have worked with Steve on that, on set, and so that's sort of a little bit of bias that I might have. I like to think that I'm good at being impartial, even when I do have reason to be biased. I also believe, though, that some bias might be unintentional and unnoticed, even when we strive for impartiality. So take that into account. However, it's important to also note that the vast majority of this review was written before we were on the set. Now, with that out of the way, let's get to the actual review. This movie centers around a series of killings, both 20 years earlier and in the present day. The murders are perpetrated by someone a survivor of the first round calls Sammy the Elf. And you are left to wonder if the killer is some sort of supernatural being or just someone in a costume as it develops. The movie is indie, but it really doesn't look like an indie movie, at least compared to a lot of other indies. Other than one short scene where the sound is a little less than great, the production values are very high quality. I also love the fact that the soundtrack is heavy metal based. The movie does have some slow parts, and I found the explanation at the beginning a little confusing, but otherwise it's a very enjoyable film. There are some really funny bits of dialogue from time to time, especially when they make reference to horror movie tropes. For some reason, I get a little bit of a Black Christmas vibe here. I'm talking the original film, not the two redos. I really can't put my finger on what it is, but I definitely thought of that movie quite a bit when watching this one. I think it's just something to do with the atmosphere. I think the thing I like the best about this movie is Sammy the Elf. The costume is very cool, but that's not the biggest selling point. He just comes across as so creepy. The way he moves and everything just has an almost uncanny valley kind of feeling to it. You know that thing where something's close enough to human but not quite there, that it's just very creepy? The movie also really captures the classic slasher film feel. There are some great kills. The gore is pretty awesome too. That aspect of the film works really, really well. The Blu-ray includes a number of bonus features, but the one I liked the best was the Sammy the Elf music video. It's a metal stomping song and a cool retro-styled music video. The behind-the-scenes features are interesting too, but not as good as the music video for me. I should also mention, do not miss the after-credits scene of this film. I missed it the first time around, but saw it the second time. It is a scene well worth seeing. Overall, I think this movie belongs in the pantheon of Christmas horror films, or as I like to call them, ho-ho horror. That list seems to be growing like crazy these days. I love the whole idea of putting the spooky back into Christmas, as I always call it. Spooky stories for Christmas is a long-standing tradition, so it's good to see it being revived after decades of being mostly ignored, at least in the U.S. It's always been a thing in the U.K. I think you should add this movie to your holiday horror film watching. Spooky Ventures is the home for spooky content and spooky merchandise on the web. Check it out today at spookyventures.com. And remember, always keep it spooky.